Hey everybody, welcome to the Infinite Regression. Wow, somebody's letting off some. Fine, I'll use the other one. Anyway, yeah, we're just sitting here in the Infinite Regression. Hold up, pay no mind. What? This is very normal up in here. Just don't mind me. Just that's not even realistic. I think you have to. There's like a breaking in period. Okay, so in case you don't know what's happening here, my lovely wife and myself, like, we have these little noisemakers. It's called a pooter. I saw it. Leslie Nelson had one that he just carried with him all the time. Like, how funny is Leslie Nelson? I've been meaning to rewatch the Naked Gun movies. And here, let me allow myself to make a recommendation. If you have never seen the Police Squad TV show, there are only 6 episodes, and it's so freaking funny. Like, if you think Naked Gun is funny, and Airplane and all those Zucker movies, like, Police Squad is where it all started, and it is amazing. And Leslie Nielsen, like, the best. Like, the best straight man in all of comedy. I mean, look, Bud Abbott was amazing. Zeppo Marx was not. um, yeah, there's just gonna be random fart-like noises as we learn this skill. Because there's like a little skill involved with the little noisemaker that we're. Oh, there we go. Anyway, but like, yeah, Leslie Nielsen, quite possibly the world's greatest straight man.
It's gotta go on the meaty part of your
Yeah, it does. It does. It's got a specific location. Wait, does this have a hole in it? I mean, there is. Oh, it's just excess rubber coming off. Anyway. Little squeaker. Don't mind me. Hey, look. I care how old you are, how classy you think you are. Farts are hilarious. That is a scientific fact. And all you had to do was follow the train, CJ. Anyway, I'm gonna hop back into this world. I did a little playing in it since you saw it last. Let me just full. Yeah, look at this. Like, okay, hoppers had not even been invented yet, and this is a dispenser. Like, they didn't have regular droppers. They had the dispenser that has a bow. Like, it's not just a, furnace with redstone for the recipe. You also have to put a bow in there. So I had to go into I went into the abandoned mine. I killed a bunch of spiders. And anyway, here I am. So here's what I've been talking with my lovely wife about. Like, lately, I've been getting a lot of random things sent to me in the mail because it's exciting. Like, I'm old enough to remember getting letters. Like, like, I once, there were a couple times where I had, like, a girl out of town who didn't know what a loser I was in town. Like, no girl in my hometown would write to me, But out of town girls were like, "Oh, who's this guy?" Um, anyway, but no, like I had some girls who used to write to me, and like you get a letter, like an actual letter, and that's kind of a lost art. Um, Maybe I should start it up again. Maybe I should,
Yeah,
you
I
know.
was thinking, like, what if you did a guy pen pal? You know, like,
Yeah, I'll be pen pals with Condon. No, but like seriously, I think that there could be a great benefit to that. Like I just having that something to look forward to, getting mail that was substantial. And now it's like, some poor schlub, who doesn't get a long enough break to go pee, and it's like peeing in an empty Gatorade bottle on the Amazon warehouse floor, uh, packing my boxes to send me Amazon stuff, and then even worse, like I've found the joys of AliExpress where you like order it and then forget about it, and then months later it shows up and you're like, oh, look at what some mysterious stranger sent to me in the mail, like it was so long ago it doesn't even feel like it was me. Anyway, it's just stupid materialism. And you're never going to fill the void in your soul with things. It's impossible. It's impossible to do. There is no thing that is so amazing that that you could actually fill your soul with it. And like um you look at insanely wealthy people, like I think it's like Lewis Black has a great bit on the guys from WorldCom who the three top executives at WorldCom stole $1 billion out of the employee pension funds. So what were the employees going to do with it? Retire someday and not work as a greeter at Walmart if things went well, which Walmart has phased out the greeter program. So awesome. Like less employment for old people. Uh anyway, so it's just what did they do with that money? Like they got a butt ton of money. What did they do with it? And it was weird stuff like a $20,000 shower curtain and a $50,000 umbrella stand. And it's like, what? What? These are things that don't even make sense. It's like your life is going so well financially that you've lost your imagination as well. Like you can't even, like I think most people, if you gave them, that kind of money, they would be able to come up with some pretty creative things to do with it. They'd be like, build a, basement in my house and put a bowling alley and an arcade in there. Like, like I would love that, frankly. That'd be awesome. But most people could come up with something reasonably interesting to do with that kind of money. But after a certain point, that would be someone acquiring it new. These are people who have had that kind of money for a long time. And so what are they doing with it? Just stupid status stuff, like, and it shows the failing of greed as a concept. Like, there you go, Ayn Rand. Your whole system is freaking stupid. Like, first of all, Ayn Rand, with your Atlas Shrugged, first thing we learn is that, if Enron and WorldCom taught us anything, it is that the wealthiest among us are not the most moral. Like, that was her idea, is that, like, if you're super duper wealthy, that means you're extra moral. It means you're like, there's like regular people being regular moral, but then there's the people who make lots of money and they're like, holy crap, your brain's not even prepared for how moral they are. Um, and that's been pretty soundly rebuffed. And also the idea that like, oh, you just have to let the capitalists do the work of capitalism, because if you try to hamstring it in any way, like you need them more than they need you. And it's like, no, stupid. Like they um they benefit so much from lack of regulation that they actively lobby for it, in Congress. Like they're always pushing for like, hey, can we get these regulations rolled back? Because they're really, really, messing with our ability to make piles and piles of money off of the suffering of regular people. Um, because the regulations in most cases exist to do things like make the drinking water in Flint, Michigan non-flammable, and stuff like that. Like real low priority stuff. Like who even cares? Like with a healthy bottom line, then it trickles down to everybody, right? No, it freaking doesn't, because like you look at what happens. We give a big old freaking tax cut to corporations, and what did they do? Massive stock buybacks. Like they bought their own stock to artificially increase its value so that they could look good to their shareholders and also like increase their own personal wealth. And that's it. Like and I can think of nothing dumber than like artificially inflating the value of something by not helping out your own employees. Like the blood of the workers oils the machine of capitalism. It is known, Khaleesi. And I know, like, my students are like, this guy, he's joking about that. Like, but am I, though? Am I really? Like, I've watched enough, like, George Monbiot to be like, I, I have some issues with the system as constituted. Sorry. Sorry, and I want like more of a low pitched like rumble, and I'm not finding that sweet spot. Right? Nope. Anyway. Anyway, regardless, there's a skill, and I'm new to this thing, and yeah, it's called the Pooter. If you want to find it, it's a delightful little toy. But anyway, like we should question a system that is not working well for everyone. I mean, that's just a pretty basic idea. Like, is the system working well for everyone? No. Well, then what the crap are we doing? Like that's just a basic question. And I think that like there's so many things that we could do without I think that capitalism is one of the best systems out there as long as it's well regulated, because it does like the number one shortfall of communism, as any where did all my wood go? I used to have like a ton of wood. Anyway, but the major shortfall of communism, as anybody who's spent like 10 minutes looking at it could tell you, is that like communism does a really, really bad job of accounting for human greed. Like, human beings are going to be greedy. And so if you're going to have a financial system, it needs to reflect that greed in some way. That's just, it's a necessity, and it's an unfortunate one, but it is a necessity. And so, anyway, the capitalism does a better job than any other system I've ever seen at acknowledging that, like, yeah, there are going to be people who want to make more money than other people, and they want to do it for status. They want to do it for power. They want to do it for, to get dad off their back or whatever. Like, there's a whole ton of reasons to do it. They want to do it to impress the ladies. They want to, like, why, whatever reason it is that you're doing it, there are always going to be people who are going to aspire to greater greed than anybody else. And, you have to account for that. But also you have to put limits on that because, absolutely unchecked greed is not just bad. It's bad for everybody. And it's bad in the same way for everybody. It is a detriment to the entire society. And so, it's very important that you not let greed overstep its bounds. But like in communism, there's no room for greed whatsoever. I think that, like, a lot of Marx's critiques of capitalism were very valid, that, like, the bourgeoisie were, like, making a profit by the blood, sweat, and tears of the proletariat, and they were absolutely taking the proletariat for granted. They saw them as these, replaceable cogs in a machine of their own making, and that is wrong. From a moral standpoint, that's absolutely wrong. And so, the great benefit of oh, can you not do this in old Minecraft? Anyway, the great benefit of Marxism is that it's great at pointing out power imbalances and at dealing with those imbalances. Like, that's the benefit of Marxism. Like, it's funny because, when you're a regular human with regular human cares, you look at something like Marxism, which has failed in its implementation so spectacularly that you would be like, what? Who would even pay attention to this? Like, who would give, 5 minutes to think about Marxism when it has, brought such suffering and woe upon all of humanity? Like, it just seems like a terrible idea, because of the way that it's been implemented throughout history. And yeah, you're not wrong there. But, like, from a scholarly standpoint, like, there are ideas that are absolutely not worth implementing in their raw form that are still very fertile grounds for theory. And, theory is still important. And so the way in which Marxism reveals power imbalances is fascinating. I know that, like, it's had a major impact on feminism, and I think feminism also, like, there are people who are like, ew, feminism. Like, there was that whole thing not that long ago with people who were like, I don't need feminism because I don't hate men and I like my boyfriend. And it's like, what? It's not even what feminist. Like, you can be a feminist and have a boyfriend. You can be a feminist and have a husband and still think the I Want a Wife classic feminist article is important and revealing about the like heavily gentrified expectations of um gender roles within a modern relationship. Like there's still something to be said there, and it doesn't have to be this like, no, if you're a feminist, it means you hate men. Like, oh, come on. Because certain things are just very fertile ideas that can be implemented in a number of ways. And feminism itself, intersectionality, like, holy crap, are you even doing the social sciences right now without an understanding of intersectionality? Because if you're anywhere in the social sciences and you don't incorporate some concept of intersectionality into your work, like, what are you even doing? Like, it's such an important idea because it addresses the issue, which is, has long been an issue, which is that, women of color were looking at feminism, was what has become known as white feminism, which is, an interesting term because it refers both to the feminism of white women, but not just specifically that. It's also like a it's also a worldview unto itself. It's not just specifically race based. It's just this like, we, us, are in group. This is how people experience the world way of looking at things without taking into account the fact that like not everyone who is a woman is necessarily experiencing the world in the same way that you do, because like race complicates those same issues that and you may experience them differently. Race does, sexuality does, class does, religion does. Like there are a number of identities that may intersect in a variety of different ways, and those have to be acknowledged in order to get a true reflection of a feminine concept. And I think the beauty of that is that there's this great the Cyborg Manifesto, which they had us read, is the first thing I read in grad school, and I was like, oh crap, this is heavy. Like I don't know if I understand this. It was a really rough read. It which is funny because like I read it then and I was like, I barely understand this, but it was a kind of an initiation into reading texts in a grad school program. Like it's just kind of a kick in the pants, like, hey, if you don't understand this, then you might not be in the right place. Which definitely some of my classmates were not. Some of them I was like, what? Because I was so worried about going into grad school, and then we started, and I struggled a bit at first, but then found that I could hang. And then I had those fellow students who were like, I would look at them and be like, okay, who told you that you could be here? And I swear to God, I'm not being elitist. I want to know, like, how is it that you come to be in the same place that I am, even though, like, I am concerned about things that you're not concerned about, and maybe you should be, and maybe I shouldn't, is the sense that I got from it. Anyway, that feels very, I don't know, I feel very elitist even saying such things. But I swear to God, I don't think that I'm like, oh, so much better than all of my classmates. It's just that, like, in the same way that college is not for everyone, grad school is certainly not for everyone. Anyway, sorry. Let me get back on track. Like, one of the things, here's a fun thing about me, is that constantly I'm constantly doing two things. number one, I am constantly concerned about whether or not I'm mansplaining, and then number two is that I am constantly mansplaining. So it's a fun time. It's a fun time inside my head. Plus, I got that white guilt like nobody's business. And I just make it happen. I just make it happen. So yeah. But it's fun though. It's a fun time. Just inhabit your own brain and be who you are and experience the world and let it be what it is. Anyway, uh there we go. Got myself a door. Oh, only one, not three. Sweet. Oh, and I think I had some glass. Yeah, I have some glass. Can I make glass panes out of it? I forget. Do glass panes even it? I forget what's a glass pane. Like anyway, I forget how to make glass panes, but I also don't know if they even existed in this iteration of Minecraft. I'm gonna go start building a house. But anyway, like, it's just very funny, that, okay, let me get off my whole elitism thing about, like, no, I was so much smarter and more prepared for grad school than all of my other fellow grad students. Man, like, let me get off that, power trip for a minute. And let me get on to this idea that there are theories which are disproven in a sense, but they're still valuable. Like I did my undergrad in communication, which is a horrendous mistake. If you're not going into business, if you're going into business, like minor in communication, there's a lot to be learned there. But I think that if you're not going into business, communication may not have a lot for you in terms of like employable skills and like actual usable stuff. And like I did learn some things in my communication undergrad, but like how is it that I became a communication major? Oh, good question, everyone all together asking me. I became a communication major because I was a theater major at community college where I started out, and I started out there because they gave me a scholarship and paid my way. So, I came out with all of these classes in like, they were like, you have, like, uh, 15 credits of repertory theater. And I'm like, yeah, that's because, I'd be doing play practice till midnight because, thank you, my love. Yeah, my darling wife is locking up the house. Uh, because it is night and I should go to bed soon. Anyway, but yeah, so repertory theater, you would take it as a class if you got a part in one of the repertory plays. And I was always getting parts in those plays because I was a good actor. Uh, or at least I tricked people into thinking so, or at least I was as good an actor as you needed to be to get a scholarship to a community college. But no, I think I was a pretty good actor. Like I was Irene Ryan nominated. How about that? So like, wasn't a complete, you know, liar in terms of talking about my acting prowess. But yeah, so mining all the things. Yeah, I had all these acting classes you end up taking a lot of the same classes again and again. And the university that I transferred to a lot of my credits just weren't going to transfer anywhere unless I put them toward communication was the best thing they had, the closest thing they had, unless I was willing to go into theater again. And one of the things, this is a longer story for another time, but one of the things that I came out of theater with was a knowledge that I did not want to do theater for the rest of my life. You know what? I should be doing this side. This is a nice big old area. Anyway, regardless, I realized that I did not want to do theater for the rest of my life, and that I was perhaps not suited for it, which makes it funny that I'm now a drama teacher. I did not, like, I majored in English in my grad work so that I could be an English teacher. Never did it enter into my heart or mind that I would teach drama. Never. Like, and I know that seems ridiculous because so many English teachers are also drama teachers. Yeah, but I thought my days of that were done, and I didn't even, like, they asked me to teach drama not knowing that I had such a background in it. They were like, we just let English teachers do this, so you do it. I was like, okay, I'll do it. And then as it turned out, like, I have a whole background in it, so lucky them. But anyway, yeah, so I majored in drama and then I majored in communication because that's where my credits would actually go to any use whatsoever, which is a really stupid way to change majors because I still ended up wasting a lot of time getting my base level communication courses, and due to some bad advising, thanks communication advising department, who is notoriously awful, and nobody told me they were notoriously awful until I was already on the receiving end of some notoriously awful advising. But anyway, so yeah, the okay. Anyway, oh, it broke. I'm gonna go make another one. So yeah, I was in communication, and I remember communication it's a fairly emergent field of study because it's always traditionally been lumped in with other things, and so it's really a discipline that's coming into its own. And so at the time, there were not many theories of communication, of human communication, that were of any use to anyone at all for any reason ever. Which is, that should have been big red flag number one. Like, we have two theories and one of them is disproven. Like, that should have been my big thing. So the big theory that was disproven was expectancy violation. Or no, not expectancy violation. Expectancy violation is the going theory, and the theory that had been disproven was what's it called? Reduction, uncertainty reduction. The old URT, uncertainty reduction theory. And so they taught us very early on, like, hey, this is the great, grand, beautiful theory of communication. It is disproven, and it has been displaced by expectancy violation theory. And we were all like, well, why are we learning this if it's been disproven? Like, what place could there possibly be in the world for a disproven theory, right? I mean, to the average person, it seems pretty obvious. Like, why in the crap would I ever study a disproven theory? It don't make no sense. And so, yeah, that's what I thought at the time. But I've come to see that a lot of these, theories that maybe don't have direct practical application, like Marxism, like, hey, don't go directly applying Marxism. You'll probably feel bad for how badly it went when you tried to overthrow the government. But even so, even though put you right here, even though the actual theories of Marxism are largely disproven because when they've been implemented, they've just turned out horribly for people. I mean, except for you, Russia and China, like, you guys are kicking butt. You're so great. Just kidding. I mean, our media tells us to not believe that, even though I'm sure if we went to certain parts of Russia and China, we'd be like, hey, look at these, relatively free markets and, burgeoning social whatnots that, reflect what we also see and expect to see in America. Like, hey, you're not doing half bad, Russia and China, in certain ways, as long as you don't look too closely and as long as you're willing to sweep a few human rights violations under the rug and not think too hard about what happens to gay people and and women and, just little details like that. But yeah, fun times, fun times. The fact of the matter is that I'm just clearing myself some land. I like to have a big flat plot of land for all of my housing needs. Anyway, but yeah, these theories, which are disproven, can still have a lot to say in a number of ways. Like I said, Marxism. You want to know about power imbalances in a society, the way they manifest, the way that they operate, the way that they come into being, and the way to overthrow them? Like, okay. Because there are still a number of power imbalances in society, and it doesn't take a rocket surgeon to know, ha 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 ha, rocket surgeon. This guy is very funny. Anyway, but it doesn't take a genius to realize where the imbalances in our society lie, and then it's just a matter of addressing them. Well, that's all. You just got to address the major imbalances. That's all you got to do. Just address them. Just address them, though. Like, if I ran for president on that platform, like, hey, those imbalances? I'm just going to address them. Just address them. You know how they haven't been addressed as such? I'm thinking about addressing them. Like, okay, great job. You have done well. All of your ideas are the very best. Thank you, sir, for your fantastical ideas. I go up here. I gotta take my tower down because it needs to come down. Because it's ugly and stupid, and I accidentally made it, like, wrong when I was making it, so I hated it this whole time. Anyway, I was initially using it to find my way because this was not a very cleared clearing when I first came to it, but significantly more cleared now. I'm working the land. Like, that is the one thing about this particular world, and might have nothing to do with the fact that this is Grognard Minecraft, but like the fact that I really had to clear this land feels substantial somehow. Like I'm a man of the land. I'm into discipline. Got a Bible in my hand and a beard on my chin. Anyway, so yeah, there we go. So yeah, don't go discarding ideas just because they don't bear fruit in terms of actual implementation. Some great ideas don't. Some great ideas only bear great fruit in the theoretical phase for other ideas which do bear fruit in the implementation. So there you go. There's some things to know about the world. I'm going to go throw these dirt blocks and saplings into my incinerator. Anyway, so yeah, these are things to note. Power imbalances in the world. Intersectionality. Very awesome. I forget where this all started and why I brought it up in the first place, but I'm sure I had some reason or another. Anyway, regardless. So yeah, peoples. It's been an interesting few days, little while. You know, it's been a weekend. This is Sunday night that I'm recording this on, and Sunday is a very tumultuous time for teachers. Like, Sundays kind of suck. Like, any teacher who is being perfectly honest with you will tell you that Sundays are kind of bullcrap. Like, that it really, really sucks to be a teacher on Sundays. And I hate that that's the case, but you know what? Like, Sundays have always felt like, honestly, the first time I ever heard Morrissey's Every Day is Like Sunday, I was like, oh my God, he gets it. Like, they're silent and gray. Like, to me, Sundays always felt kind of like a headache. Like, if I could put an emotion on the day, it would be a headache. And it's funny because, like, you know, when you grow up you grow up religious like I did, grew up very religious. And, you know, the Sabbath is a delight, saith the Lord. You know, and the Sabbath is made for man, like, and not man for the Sabbath. Like, I made it for you, dude. Like, who you think I'm doing this for, saith the Lord? I'm making you this special day that you get to, like, not do any of the things you want and just do the things that I tell you to do. Like, yeah. Thanks, Lord. Thanks for remembering that that's my favorite thing, is not doing what I want. Thank you, Lord. Oh my God. Nobody understands me like you do. Anyway. But yeah, like, Sundays have always been a tricky day for me. And here I am on a Sunday, and it is no less the case that this Sunday has been a bit of a tricky one. You know, I just had a conversation with my wife about some things that I've been feeling. Like, lately, I've been doing a lot of mail order. I think I mentioned this earlier. And I've been doing it mainly because it helps me to have something to look forward to. You know, my dad used to do a lot of mail order back in the day, and he'd get all kinds of cool stuff in the mail. And looking back, like, I just know that my dad had a lot of the same things that I have. Like, I know that my dad must have suffered from depression and anxiety for a while, like I did. 'Cause I suffered from depression and anxiety. I still do. You know, I'm medicated for it. So I have that advantage over him. But, like, but yeah, depression and anxiety, they are not my friend. And lo, they are with me always, even unto the end of the world. See, I can quote the Bible, which is hilarious because when I quote the Bible in class, which I do frequently because it's fun and funny, my students never know what the crap I'm talking about. Like, there are more churches than people in this small town because there are a lot of poor people here, and poor people do church way more than rich people. Oh, what's that? That sounds like an uncomfortable fact about the world that we don't want to face down. Yeah, thank you very much. Because what is religion? Well, religion is a way of bringing order to chaos. Like, at its heart, that's what religion is for. It's a way of taking a chaotic world and saying, hey, number one, it's not as chaotic as it seems. And number two, it gets better. Like, there is a great, grand, glorious plan for all of this and for your life. And there's someone who is so powerful and amazing who is looking out for you. Like, that sounds like the best, you know? And to say nothing of whether or not it's true, but just the idea in and of itself is like, oh, this is a sweet idea. Thank you, idea of religion. Like, yeah, the base idea of religion is amazing. And so, like, da, 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 yeah. Okay. Let me get that dough. Yeah. Okay. Yeah, the original idea for religion's existence is kind of awesome. Like, it's, you know, humanity taking matters into its own hands, by creating ritual, by creating meaning making systems outside of itself to give meaning to itself. That's kind of, hey, like, nicely done, humanity. You made meaning making systems and did a good job of it. So hooray for you, humanity, and your meaning making systems. But yeah, then we get into the business of people taking it super, super seriously and trying to enforce it on everybody else. And, you know, meanwhile, it's like something, you know, I think the greatest metaphor for religion that I've ever heard comes from one of the early sermons of the Buddha, in which, you know, there was this monk who, you know, became a Buddhist monk back when it was a hip, fresh thing to be. Like, oh, you one of these Buddhists now. All right, I see what you're doing. Like, you're with a new crew. Anyway, so yeah, he's a Buddhist monk in the early days of that being a thing. And he's very zealous about Buddhism. Is like, oh my God, like, this is it. And then he starts, like, getting really pedantic and ridiculous. Like, he's a real stickler for every little nitpicky thing, and he's, you know, just holding to everything way too much. And the Buddha comes to him and tells him a parable. Um and he says, okay, imagine that you're traveling through a wilderness, and as you travel, you come to this river, and it's too deep to it's too deep to wade across. It's too swift to swim across. It is just a problematic river. There is no way that under your own power you're going to make it across this river. So, what do? You construct a raft. You sit down on the bank, and you know, work with whatever rudimentary tools you have. You fashion a rudimentary lathe. Congrats to you if you get that reference. By Grabthar's hammer, by the sons of Worvan, you shall be avenged. Oh my god. Anyway, so yeah. I'm gonna go chop down some more trees. But anyway, so the Buddha's like, yeah, you're in this wilderness, you're traveling, you make this raft, and you use the raft, and it carries you safely across the river. And then the Buddha says, you look at this raft that you have made. You spent so much time with it. You know, took you time and effort and energy to create it. And it did such a fantastic job carrying you from one place to the other. And you love this raft so much, and you are so grateful for it, that you just drag it with you as you continue to trek through forests and wilderness and dry land. And to which the monk is like, well, that is the stupidest thing I've ever heard. And I mean, I am giving a very loose paraphrase to the story, but I think that the Buddha would have been okay with that. Because of how the story ends, which it will very quickly. Anyway, so yeah, the monk says, you know, it would be incredibly stupid to drag this raft with you on dry ground as you're crossing wilderness. At that point, instead of a help, it becomes an encumbrance. And the Buddha says, exactly. So it is with my teachings, you know. And Buddhists, for the most part, are very pragmatic. You know, they see their religion as a way of getting from point A to point B. They don't hold to it as like, oh, the great grand truth of all truths, of like, you know, and like, it's not worth getting hung up on so many of the particulars when you have the generalities for the most part, you know. And also, like, there's no need to like rigorously enforce on others your belief system, because they have their belief system, and your belief system is a raft, and their belief system is a slightly differently shaped raft. Now, here's the funny thing, is that, like, we have this weird and slightly mystical view of Buddhists, which, thanks Myanmar and, you know, Sri Lanka for disabusing us of that notion, because, like, we have this idea that, like, oh, Buddhists, they're so peaceful, they've never started a war with anyone. But we're thinking of the monks, which the monks themselves are highly problematic. Like, I met a monk who was when I was in Cambodia, and spent time with him, and he had an incredibly lavish lifestyle for a monk, which is not supposed to happen. That's not a thing that you're supposed to be able to say, like, look at my very lavish lifestyle. But, you know, he was a monk who had gained notoriety among the mucky mucks and upper crusts and whatnot, and then was later caught hanging out with prostitutes, and not in a Jesus-y, like, here, let me help you not be a prostitute anymore sort of a way. Anyway, but more in the, like, let me help you continue being a prostitute sort of a way. Anyway, there we go. Broke that axe. So yeah, it's not like Buddhists themselves are perfect in their practice, just like anybody, every religion is filled with people who are terrible at practicing their religion. You know, like, you think that Christians are the only ones who have the equivalent of the, what are those idiots? The Baptist church that protests the, Westboro, protests the funerals of American soldiers, and, like, you know, just seems to have their finger on the button of who God hates and who God loves. You know, they know better than anyone, like, oh, God hates fags and God hates Sweden. That's one of my favorite ones, God hates Sweden. It's like, if God hates Sweden, why is it so relatively nice there? You know, they rank highly on the UN happiness rankings. Their, you know, average level of education is higher than a lot of countries. The, you know, just general signs of well-being for most Swedes is pretty high. So it seems like, no, I don't know if I'm with you on this God hates Sweden business, because it seems like God is pretty okay with Sweden. Like, if he hated them, he sure has a weird way of showing them. Like, I hate you. I'm gonna inflict you with higher levels of happiness than countries that I purportedly love. Anyway, regardless, religionists can be silly gooses sometimes. Let's all agree on that. Anyway. Yeah. So here's the thing. I'm just gonna lay these blocks, and once I've laid these blocks, I'm going to bed. But here's the thing: is that you know, happiness is so ethereal and illusory, and, like, it's so problematic. Because we want it so badly, and, you know, so many times it's so hard to come by. Yeah. And I find myself, like, this comes back to my statement about mail order, like, you know, doing a lot of mail order. Why? Well, because like, it's exciting to get things in the mail, and I feel like it makes me happy, except for, like, that happiness lasts very, very short amounts of time, like, incredibly short amounts of time. And there's one of the interesting things is that, you know, experts have been asking the question more than ever, is happiness worth having at all? Which seems like it seems like a like a dumb question, right? Like, is happiness worth having? Duh, of course. Like, everybody wants to be happy. But is that the wrong goal? Because there are other things. There are things other than happiness which could be potentially equally beneficial for humanity. And if we sought after those things rather than happiness, perhaps it would be better. And I know what you're thinking automatically, which is like, wait, what could be better than happiness? Like that, you seem stupid, Mr. Man, with your, you know, better than happiness. Um, and you know what? I hear you. Like um, I come from a background of, religious people will often play this game, which is one of my favorites, which is like, oh, people outside of our very specific religious community, they may think that they're happy, but they're actually not. Which is like, what? What now? Huh? It just seems like um, so very silly that that there's no um, that you can point at someone else smiling and telling themselves that they're happy, and you can be like, no, that's not real, because my system of getting that is the only way. It's a no true Scotsman fallacy, where like, no, but the true happiness that you get, the really, really real happiness, is the one that you only get when you believe in my belief systems and belong to my membership things, and are on the in group of my in group, which is just, it's a silly way that humans operate many times. It's like we tend to be so favorable of our own in groups and of our own um identities, like whatever our meaning making systems are that also formulate our identities. We sort of have a problem with any others, with any of them that are not our own. Anyway, so yeah, um, but in talking about happiness as quite possibly the wrong thing to be chasing after in life, which, believe me, I am as I have been as skeptical as you might be right now, and if you're not skeptical, you should be, because you don't know me. Always be skeptical. Like, don't like research it for yourself. Don't just take anything that I give you. Anyway, uh, so uh, researchers are finding that the feeling of constantly chasing happiness can actually make us woefully unhappy, which seems counterintuitive, but you think about it for a minute and you're like, yeah. Um, and it could be the ways in which we're chasing happiness, like, oh, we're trying to get money, we're trying to get fame, we're trying to get achievement, we're trying to get, whatever it is that we're trying to accomplish. Like, oh, we must just be going about it the wrong way. Okay, well, that's one way of looking at the issue, but it doesn't necessarily mean that that is correct. Um, Anyway, I'm building a big house. I don't know what it's going to be like. I'm just sort of throwing. I think my walls are entirely too high, but whatever. I've been talking. So the question is, if happiness isn't the thing we should go after, then what is? And and the answer seems to be, and I may be wrong, it seems to be satisfaction. You know, and it's funny because, like, how many of us are actually satisfied at any given time? Well, uh, we could be more satisfied. I'm sure we all feel like, oh, I could be more satisfied, I guess. Um, but anyway, satisfaction is something that we gain, not through, like, the things that we do to get happiness, acquiring the right things, making the right achievements in life. There are all these conditional things, because say your financial status. Well, the greatest indicator of your financial status is like the greatest indicator of how much wealth you will accumulate over your lifetime is however much wealth your parents accumulated, which is very sad for. Wait, hold up. Oh, okay. Anyway, yeah, this is very sad for poor people to be like, wait a minute, the greatest indicator of how much wealth I can have in life is whether or not my parents are wealthy, because my parents are not wealthy. So if we take, I was hitting the wrong button. If we take it as like, oh, so those sorts of like wealth is an indicator of happiness. Well, it can't be wealth, and that's most people will say, money can't buy happiness, and it's like, well, you're right on, dude. This money technically can't buy happiness, probably, as far as we know. What? Can I not? Can I only do, like, wait a minute. Am I going to have to do, like, a slab level to get the, come on. If I do that, okay. Alright, I'll do a slab level. Oh, you silly grognard Minecraft. What will you think of next? Anyway. Ta-da. Alright, I better go back to my house. Or go back to my bed and the place where I live. Do-do-do-do-do. Alright. Anyway, but it seems to make a lot of sense to me to seek after satisfaction rather than happiness. And here's why. I think back to when I was a kid, and if I didn't get a job, my dad would sell me out to the farmers and ranchers in the area where I lived. And he would sell me out to them, and I would work for them for a pittance. Actually, it's funny. I worked for them for free because it was so important to my dad that I work and that I learn the value of work, that he told them that I would work for free and then he would pay me. And it's funny because he would say the money came from them. Like, oh, the Browns gave you some money. Those are some people I did some ranch work for, and I'd be like, oh, cool. And I wouldn't think about the fact, like, why did they give it to you? Why didn't they give it to me? I never thought about that. Like, I just was like, no, this is the money for my hard day's labor. But anyway, yeah, he paid for my labor so that I could learn how to work. And I was never without work over the summer because, you tell a farmer or a rancher that they're going to get a free farm hand or a free ranch hand who's not completely worthless, knows how to work the right end of a shovel, like knows farming and ranching basics. They're freaking delighted, and so yeah, I did all the things. Mended miles and miles of fence, bucked an awful lot of hay. This is before like automatic uh, like Baylor stackers, like those may have existed back when I was a kid, but no one I knew had them. Like we were doing that by hand, um, and so like all the 50 and 75 pound hay bales, you'd stack those 5 high by hand on a trailer, you know, and it was a lot of work. It's an awful lot of work. So you'd pull up early in the morning, massive freaking field, hay bales every 15, 20 feet or so, depending on how good of a cut they got out of it. And anyway, so yeah, you just grab those things and stack them up, and it's just tedious work. And you were always cutting it, when it was warm outside, because that's when alfalfa is ready. It's not a winter crop. You don't get that sweet winter alfalfa growing. It's a spring and summer crop. Um, so anyway, oh god, I'm gonna get some mob spawns in these places because it's gonna be dark. I have to like fight my way out of my own house. Anyway, so yeah, you work your butt off. Like you'd go and just work and work and work all freaking day, and like just back-breaking labor, and at the end, where there used to be a field filled with hay bales, there was now a clean, empty field. You would sit on the end of the hay trailer as it headed off to the barn, and you could see a visual representation of the work that you had accomplished. What have I done today? Well, this field and that field and that field were full of hay bales when I came to work this morning, and now they are picked clean. I did that. That was me. And there's a lot of satisfaction that comes with that. Is it happiness? No, it's not happiness, because happiness typically we associate with things that we wanted to do in the first place. And bucking hay is not a thing that I ever wanted to do. Like, I did not choose it for myself. If somebody was like, hey, for old time's sake, you want to buck some hay, I'd be like, screw you, I don't do that. Actually, a large part of the reason that I became a teacher is because I learned that I enjoy working with my brain. I enjoy brain work and not back work. So that's why I'm a teacher, people. I'm a teacher because yeah, this sucks. Like, I hate how it Grogdarn Minecraft, my number one complaint with you is that farming is ridiculous. Anyway, so yeah, back-breaking labor. It was not fun. It was not happy. I did not have a joyous time doing it. I would not do it now given the chance. But was it satisfying to look at that empty field and know that I had accomplished something? Yes. Yes, it was. It was absolutely satisfying. And it's funny because I come from a long line of farmers and ranchers on both sides of my family, and they would be disappointed to know that I have no interest in it. Like, well, I think any of them that knew me actually knew pretty well that I had no interest in it. But yeah, taught me pretty early that I did not want to work with my hands for a living, that I wanted to work with my brain because of how much freaking work it is to work with your hands. And, like, I appreciate, like, it's funny, we have, I think one of the things that is really lacking in our society, there are a lot of people who just really lack empathy. And, people talk about, like, oh, these Karens, like, oh, get me your manager, like that kind of woman, who has seemingly no empathy for people working menial jobs. I've worked menial jobs, you know, I, yeah, I have once literally shoveled excrement all day. Like, I did. There were days where it's like we have to clear out this corral that's getting piled way too high. And it's like, yeah, you're right. It's piled really high. We got to shovel it out. And you're literally just shoveling crap all day. This is all you're doing. The only thing on the docket, what are we doing today? Well, I got this crap that we got to take care of. And then you just go take care of it. Is it fun? No, it's not fun. Are you stupid? Like, of course it's not fun. And I think that we're sort of missing that. As more and more jobs go to brain work instead of hand work. I think about things that Mike Rowe from Dirty Jobs said. Like, he said that some of the happiest people he knows are people who work those dirty jobs. And he said, if you ask them, like, oh, does it make you happy to, like, pluck chickens all day, every day? And they'd be like, no, it's stupid, gross, back-breaking labor. But, like, at the end of it, you can look, oh, there's all my wood. I knew it was here somewhere. I thought it was in my building materials. Anyway, but, like, yeah, you do these things, and it's not like you're getting something out of it in the sense that, like, oh boy, like I knew plumbers who were perfectly happy, and they had, big nice house, provided for their family really well. And what did they do? They took crap all day. Like, you think you take crap at your job? These guys, whew, and guess what? Very happy in their personal life. Why? Because, like, at the end of the day, they're like, unclog that drain, fix that flange, sweated those pipes, got them all set up just right, like, there's the satisfaction of a job well done. And I think one of the reasons why, like, housewives, especially the advent of first wave feminism, were feeling so just desperately unfulfilled, is because so much of that work doesn't have a satisfactory end. Like, you think about your stereotypical women's work, and it's like cooking meals and doing dishes and doing laundry, and it's like, oh my god, like, you cook the meals so you can get the dishes dirty so that you can then wash them, and it just never ends. Like, if you've ever been the one person in charge of doing dishes, like, it sucks. I've been a stay-at-home dad. I've been in charge of the household chores before, and it sucks. Like, it just never ends. You do all this work, and there should be a satisfaction of, like, oh, there's a job well done. And it's like, no, like, as soon as I got the dishes washed, it was meal time, and then we dirtied some dishes, and I cried in the corner. So, you know, spare a little sympathy for the housewife. It's a hard friggin' job. Anyway, but I will say this, that satisfaction is something that you can actually attain. It's actually much easier to get. I get a great deal of satisfaction if I create a checklist of things that I need to get done. Like checking off each box is its own reward, and checking off that last box, oh man, it doesn't always happen. I'm always biting off more than I can chew, but like it feels good. It feels good. And I need to seek after more of the satisfaction than I do of the just, oh, I want to be happy. Yeah, who doesn't? Who doesn't? You're going to have happiness. Like almost regardless of what you do in life, you will have moments of happiness. But happiness is moments. Satisfaction, like I'm still satisfied with the fact that I cleared those fields as, a 14, 15, 16-year old kid. Um, totally satisfied. Like 100%. I know what I did. No one can knock what I did. I accomplished something. It was a lot of work and I did it. And I'm satisfied. You know, am I happy? Does the happiness from being done with that last? No, it doesn't. It hasn't. So maybe that's the answer. I don't know. I don't know. All I know is that I better take a pill tonight. Otherwise, there might be no happiness in my future. Uh, yeah, that depression gonna get me hard. It's funny. This is the last thing I'll say, and then I really gotta stop because my wife went to bed. Who knows how long ago? An hour and 20 minutes, because that's how long I've been doing this. Anyway, so um, oh, I better not have lost my train of thought. I think that I did. I think I did. Crap on a cracker. Happiness, satisfaction, bleep bloop blah blah blah. Yeah, happiness is in moments. Satisfaction can last a long time, and you can point back to it and be satisfied with things that you've done. Yeah, it's true. And I think that like tasks of self improvement, one of the great things that we did with our kids when we were locked down for COVID 19 is I told them, I was like, look, I'm going to be working on improving myself. And you all need to improve yourselves. And you need to have specific goals. My son decided that he wanted to be able to tie his shoes, which that was hard. He is left-handed, number one. Number two, like he gets down on himself easy if something is not completely natural to him. Anything that he does have a lot of skills. He's more athletic than most people in my family, and so, athletic type stuff, he can pick it up super easy, and he'll be very happy with it. But it's those things that sometimes the fine motor skills that he's still developing, and so he gets very down on himself very easily. And we worked hard. We worked hard to help him learn how to tie his shoes, and we finally did it. Like we finally did it, and it was good. It was very good. I broke it down in just the right way. Like, yeah, we got it made. We got it done. My daughter decided she wanted to be able to learn to bake stuff. And I swear to God, her cream cheese frosting is the best. And she bakes excellent cakes. Like, she'll bake a cake from scratch, and it will be so freaking good. I don't even like cake that much. As I get older, I'm more and more of a pie man, and she makes these awesome cakes. And she learned how to do that, and that's a skill that she's always going to have. You know, you think about when you're in college, um, people who know how to cook, who like really, really know how to cook, those people are always in demand. Like always, always. If there's ever a thing where it's like, hey, we know somebody who knows how to make a home cooked meal, and they're making a home cooked meal, it's like, yeah, we're going to their house. Like, I'm tired of eating like microwaved stuff for dinner. Like, we're gonna go eat like real food that was baked by someone who knows how to bake. You know, um, I know how to make food. I knew how to cook. I was not one of those ones, but like, you know, I made food for a lot of people in my time as well. Anyway, here's the other thing: is I think it's really easy. I reminded myself of what I wanted to say. I think it's really easy to pass the buck on your own happiness right here, right now during COVID 19 because everyone is more depressed because of COVID. But now we're in this weird situation where, like, you know, a bunch of people in the country are being idiots. They're not wearing masks. They're just sort of giving up on the basics that we needed to do. In case you didn't know, for future reference, COVID 19, here's what we had to do: wear masks to prevent the spread. You know, you don't wear masks to protect yourself from having COVID get in. You wear it so that if you are infected, you don't spread it to other people. Just basic decency. And yet people made it this political thing of like, I support Trump, therefore I don't wear a mask. And it's like, dude, come on. Like, just basic decency. Like, why make it a culture war? It's stupid. Anyway, um, I have my freedom. Like, do you though? Because, you know, if it's a thing about, you know, you and your rights, how about like you wear a mask so I don't get the Rona from you and I cough directly into your mouth with all of your freedoms that you have. Anyway, washing hands. Yeah, so these are the things: wear a mask, wash hands, social distance, stand 6 feet apart or more, don't go to large gatherings like Trump rallies. Anyway, those super spreader events. Um, and, you know, just generally uh, look out for your health and well being. Well, it's turned into us just basically being cooped up all the time. We just stay inside the house all the time. I am the only one who really goes to the store. I mean, my wife does sometimes, but when the Rona first really hit, I was the only one going outside. Everybody else just stayed cooped up. And it was really scary. Like, we didn't know how to handle a pandemic, and now we're bored with it. Like, the one thing that they can't prepare you for in a pandemic is how completely boring it is. So boring. Like, you feel like you should be terrified all the time, but your brain can't handle being terrified all the time. And so when it's not terrified, it just feels bored. And it also feels wildly depressed. And so it's so easy to pass the buck on your own happiness because you're like, well, it's a time when everybody's feeling depressed. I'm feeling depressed because of COVID, because that's how you feel when it's this time, and that's just the way it is. And so I'm depressed because it's COVID, and how I'm gonna feel, you know. And you just give yourself permission. Well, I need to stop giving myself permission. Anyway, and I need to go to bed. My wife will be sound asleep by the time I get in there. She makes me very sad. She's a delightful human, and I should spend more time with her. As she was here, we were, you know, having fun and laughing at the beginning of this, but then she went to bed like a sensible person. And I stayed up and talked to myself. All right, people, have a lovely rest of your time, and I will see you in the next one. Bye.